In this video, I'm going to talk about how to identify which rust repair patches are going to be the easiest and quickest to fix, using MIG welding and all steel repair patches. I started with a very complicated patch on my restoration, and it was probably a lot harder and slower because I was learning new techniques and I was getting used to the tools. Probably the whole thing's going to produce a better result, smoother and faster, if you start with what they call low-hanging fruit. Got to mention, with my Fenders, I found a lot of stress fractures all over them, and you probably want to start by fitting the panel up to the car, because you might have to bump it around to get it on, and you would want to weld up these stress fractures after the panel has been fitted to the car to ensure that you don't create a new stress in the panel if you weld it up in a warped shape. This repair patch I'm using was cut from a damaged reproduction Fender. So when I cut my repair patch, if your angle grinder goes a bit crooked making the patch, you're going to have to exactly match that crook in the Fender. So it's easy to aim for straight and do the best you can. Jeez, that's not too bad. It was better than I had hoped. I took a regular file like this because it's dead flat and nice and hard, and I straightened the edges down it simply because it would be easy to reproduce on the Fender. So this would be one of the easiest repair patches on my Chevelle, even without a reproduction panel that I could sacrifice for materials, because it gave me that correct curve. But if you were making this patch, there is only one curve in one direction. You could simply bend a piece of sheet metal without a break. I would probably clamp it in a vise or on a bench over a soft bit of timber and just press it in. You've got to deburr everything, because when things almost fit, those burrs will stop your patch from sinking in where it needs to be. Now, welding, particularly an inferior form of welding like my resin cord MIG wire, generates a lot of heat, and the more heat makes more warping. With welding warping, you put the steel on liquid and then it shrinks when it cools. So the hotter it is, the more it's going to shrink, and the more buildup you have, the more one-sided it's going to pull on when it shrinks. Got it seamed up with some pretty good penetration, and well, did pull in a little. So it's good there. So this is an easy repair because half of the welding can be done on both sides around that inner frame on the Fender. So two solutions: you can balance that pull from the welding by welding on both sides and they can equalize each other out, or you can do a technique called plenishing the weld, where you beat the tension out of it when it's still soft with a hammer. Here I'm sealing it up with fish oil. It's soft, it's flexible, so it won't crack. It sticks to everything. I've been told it kind of dries out and disappears over a period of perhaps 10 years. But when you want something to soak into gaps and seams, I think it's an excellent product. It's cheap too, but it does stink for a while. So the key reason why this is an easy patch is because the repair has one simple curve to it, a shape that moves in one direction, and you can just drop it in where it goes. I have a video where I create a complicated patch on the inside of a door frame, and that repair patch, you could have the perfect patch and you could not drop it into the shape of the door frame. It just wouldn't work. It had to be assembled on the door. So you're actually utilizing pattern making skills like what people do in the clothing industry. My other Fender had a much larger patch. I was also able to use my damaged reproduction Fender to source the patch. I used the same scribe out my cutout section after I had trimmed down my patch to an appropriate size. This piece would have been more complicated to make from scratch, seeing as it has two curves and two folds, but because they're all going in the same direction, a small sheet metal break would have done the job. Again, this is an easy repair because you can lay the patch over exactly where it needs to be, thus enabling you to scribe exactly where to cut out, giving you the option of a nice tight butt joint. Now the very bottom of the fender has a little bit of rust in it, but I've decided to preserve as much factory steel as possible to keep it. And this also enabled me to run my welds along a corner, which is another reason why this was about as easy as rust repair patches get. Same with the lip, the vertical lip around the edge of the fender. Leaving that edge there made the welding much easier. Being on a corner greatly cut down the warping. Let me know, what did you think of the new intro?